Risotto, I feel like, gets a lot of weird, it's like a tension thing. Everyone's like, I don't want to mess around with it because they're al dente and this and that and the other thing. Or if you don't know any of that stuff, just take what I have to say for it. Risotto is the best thing in the whole wide world. It's the most decadent thing in the whole wide world. It's not gluten-free. It's not fat-free. It's to do it like how it's authentically to be done, it's really decadent. I, for whatever it's worth today, decided to go a veg route. I'm using veg stock as the base for it, just because we have pork loin. I figured why not do vegetarian risotto, because then if there's some people in the audience who don't want to eat meat, whatever, we've got it made. We don't have to worry about that. I think I'm out of order now. So we were just talking about the menu. So the risotto is the main thing that we're going to do, and then pork loin. Pork loin, for me, is something that I use at the restaurant a lot. It's super versatile. I think a lot of people have problems with pork because they grew up with pork chops that were overcooked and dry, and mom's making pork chops again. You know what I mean? I just think, especially in a restaurant setting, pork loin is one of the most versatile things you can use, just because there's 100 things you can do with it. Do you guys know what a pork loin looks like? Right? Okay. So I got a full pork loin in today, and I broke it down, and I seared it, and I cooked it, everything that's in the recipe, and that's what we're going to eat later on. And then I brought a little baby one that I'm going to cook right now, and that's why I had to stop myself talking about risotto, because I got to do this right now, or it's going to run out of time. So, pork loin, yeah. There it is. I hope it's not going to make anybody, there it is. We got pork loin. Normally when you get it, it's this big, right? And you probably have seen cooking shows before. Pork doesn't have a ton of fat on it, but you're going to find that it has a little bit on the top. I always get rid of it. It's not super hard to do. You just have to, I don't expect that anyone's going to go home and butcher their pork loin after this, but it's not super hard. I always feel like if I can do it, anybody can do it. I'm not super good at stuff like this. I don't know. It just takes a little getting used to. It's just a very small layer on the top. It's not going to be the end of the world if you don't take it off, but they call it silver skin, and it can be a little tough. So it's, you just have to catch the very end of it. I'm sure if you go on YouTube, you can find some videos of somebody doing it probably way more elegantly than I am right now. Then I also find, if you look at the pork loin, this end right here looks a little bit different than the whole rest of it. Can you guys see that a little bit? There's an end piece right here. I cut that off. And it seems like a lot of waste. I'm not going to waste it. I'll hang on to that, and you can use it for stock, or you can use it for something else. But it can be a little tough. I use it for other things. Do you know what I mean? I wouldn't throw it away. I would keep it. But keeping that on there, it'll be a little gristly, a little tough. So we're gonna hang on to that and use it later. I hope you guys aren't you're not grossed out by this, are you? I wanted to show you that, guys, though, because if you go to the store and you buy this and you just use it as is, you might be like, what did I just get? It's tough, it's got problems. So you do have to do a little bit of work to it, but that's it. That's all I'm gonna do to it. So the rest of the stuff, I'm gonna save for later. So now there's 100 things you can do with it at this point. You can roast the whole thing, which is what we're gonna do. And then when it's done, you can slice it. You can cut smaller portions out of it, 2 or 3 ounce portions, and pound it out. Schnitzel, is that what, do you guys know schnitzel? I don't know it very well, but I think that's pretty much what it is. It's just pounded out pork, and then you do something to it. So in regards to that, you can get utilization for days out of one pork loin, which is why it's beneficial for us at the restaurant. And then, there's enough stuffed pork loin. You can butterfly this thing, take your knife and start cutting it, and then basically you can get it so it's flat, stuff it with things like, cream cheese, ricotta, herbs, things like that. Hey, where'd you come from? That's Rachel, our pastry chef. She'll be up here later. So I'm gonna get to this because time is flying. So you guys have the recipes right now? Okay. This is gonna get weird. So garlic oil, which I think is on that recipe. And then salt. And I don't think I have amounts on there, do I? No. Right. That's for a reason. I never use that. I mean, that's red pepper right there. It's called, I think I called it chili roasted pork loin. That was chili powder that I just did right there. This is Aleppo pepper, which is my new favorite spice of 2015. It's a dried pepper. I kind of stumbled across it. Maybe my wife might have actually hipped me to it at Penske's. It's really awesome. It's not as hot as chili pepper. Really good flavor. It's just a really different dried spice. Aleppo pepper, A-L-E. It's in the thing. I think I said on there, it's not life or death if you don't use it. Because I mean, like, if you're not down with it, whatever. It's, you know, I think it's cool. I think I got everything on that side. So I'm going to do it again on the other side. Salt, black pepper. And be generous about it because you want it to taste like something, you know what I mean? I wouldn't have called it chili roasted pork loin if it wasn't going to taste like something. Okay, good, right?
So the smoked paprika, you can use a Hungarian
Well,
instead?
thanks for bringing that up because I didn't put that on there yet. That was my favorite spice of 2004.
Interesting too, because you're kind of like just putting the stuff on and
Right.
rub it in instead of mixing it together.
And that's how I do it, just because then you can kind of gauge if there's one that you like more than the other. You know, then you can gauge it. And I'm glad you brought up smoked paprika because that was my favorite spice of 2014, which is carrying into 2015. So that's it. Really season that thing, right? Lots of salt. I mean, I'm an aggressive seasoner. I've learned to just be at one with my spices, you know? I just really love a kind of semi-aggressive to aggressive seasoning. So that's your chili. That's your chilied pork loin, who now is going to come over to my awesome flat top over this way. Come on, let's go.
The difference between smoked paprika and Hungarian paprika is that there's a smokiness.
Really, I think they just smoke the paprika like they would almost anything else. I don't know exactly. I'm taking this flat top. You can use a saute pan in your house, something that will fit. You can cut this in half, you know, and you could cut it in half, put the other half in the freezer if you wanted to, right? You know, so get that pan hot. It should make a noise. That's a good noise. That's good. We can deal with that. And then what we're going to do, can you guys see it at all? You'll be able to see it later. I can't wait for this. It'll be like 3 in the morning. I'll be rolling around and there's cable access. I'm like, oh no, no. So what we're going to do now is we're searing the pork loin. We're going to, yeah, right, my lilacs here, thanks, right? So we're going to sear it. I like to say on 4 sides because, I mean, it's not square, but it'll kind of be like 4 sides, at least the very 2 main broad sides of it. So I can let this go for a while. What we're going to do as soon as it gets done searing, we're going to put it in this oven which fans doesn't work and hope for the best and expect the worst. That's it. The pork loin, once it goes in the oven, it'll be exciting when we flip it. Takes about 35, 40 minutes. If you have a meat thermometer in your house, they say 165. 165 can be kind of done. So that's a whole other thing with pork is like, I don't mind mine a little pink. It's all really up to you. I don't think you should be eating straight raw pork because then you probably would risk getting trichinosis. But I don't think, I mean, eating something that's on the rare side with pork in the 2015, you're not going to suffer from that. I'm alive. I eat all my pork pretty much medium rare. So, yeah, no, right? And like once you get it out of the oven, you can let it sit, and it'll probably get to 165 after it's sat for 10, 15 minutes. So, yeah, we're going to let that go, and I'm going to start the risotto. Woo-hoo! Yeah, right? So I brought my induction burner. For those of you who were here the last time, does anybody know what an induction burner are? They're on like infomercials and stuff like that. It's a pretty awesome thing. For this especially, it has to be like an aluminum or stainless steel, I think, surface, and it's so cool. Anyway, it works great for this. We've used it like one time other than this at home. I felt guilty after I was like, we got to use it one more time. Want to multitask. I'm going to let it go a little bit longer. Usually it'll start to get a little bit white around the side that's on the heat. So I'll give it just a little bit longer. Meanwhile, let's switch gears to risotto. So So we're making a wild mushroom and asparagus risotto. Oh, I wanted to pass around this. I'm just going to start with you. So pass this around to anybody who wants to look at arboreal rice, which is what risotto is usually made of, traditionally made of. And I like to say also about risotto, when you hear risotto, risotto isn't exactly a thing so much as it's a methodology. You can make risotto out of brown rice. You can make risotto out of other short grain rices. I've tried it with brown rice. It doesn't work out super great. It didn't work out great for me. Arboreal rice is traditionally what you use. It's a really tiny, small grained. If you guys can touch it, it's pretty cool. You can find it in the stores nowadays. You can find it with all the other rice. It's kind of expensive. It's hoity-toity. It's what risotto really is. But that's the grain of rice that you should use for risotto. I went to the farmer's market today and I got asparagus fresh today. These mushrooms, I'm just gonna space it till we're done with this, but they come from a place locally in Wisconsin. I cannot think of it's a 4-letter town. I won't remember it. But the mushrooms are local. The asparagus is local. It came from a place in Ripon, Wisconsin. I got it this morning. I'm getting ahead of myself, you guys. So I'll keep talking right while we're doing this. I had to cut this onion, or else we're not making risotto. Are you guys looking at that recipe for risotto right now? Yeah. So I think it says something about dicing an onion, I'm sure, right? 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 Chop? So we're going to chop an onion. And I'm making 1 pound of, I'm using 1 pound of arboreal rice. I made this at home to make sure that this was going to work. This is going to be so cool to watch. Later on, there'll be knives flying all around. I made it at home to see how much it would yield. It yields a lot. Like a lot. Like, I don't know what I'm going to do with it. And I hope you guys are really hungry because there's so much risotto. Like initially what I was going to do, don't even ask me why this is what I thought, but I had this gigantic pot. I mean, it's like a witch's cauldron because we use it so much at work. It's literally this big around. It's like this deep. My wife, I was pulling my hair and I'm like, I got to find a burner. I went through this whole thing. I was going to make like 90 pounds of risotto in front of you guys. And then I was like, what am I doing? Why would I do that? You know, I'm like, that's never going to work. So after I thought about it for a little while, I thought, well, I'll make 1 batch, and that might be a little bit better. So I'm making pretty much the same recipe that you'll be looking at. So I think it's 1 onion. I love garlic, so I rarely measure or count like how much garlic I would use. What does it say, like 4 or 5 cloves or something like that? Yeah, 400 or 500 or something like that. The laughs never stop. I'm gonna back up to this thing right now. So this pan's probably really hot because I put it on too early. So the first step that you need to do is add way more oil than you would imagine you would add. What's it say in the thing? 2 tablespoons or something like that? It's a lot. Because what you have to do is get that oil nice and hot. Hey, turn that. Jeez, what's wrong with you guys? There, that's good. Get that oil good and hot. What has to happen is when we add the rice to the oil, we have to coat that oil. It's called parching it. You basically are coating every grain of rice with hot oil. It starts a cooking process. It starts to release starch in there. So, pardon my block of Parmesan here. Onions in. Get those guys going. I got to move my stuff down because Rachel's stuff's coming up and her stuff's way cooler than mine. Wooden spoon. Or I could use a spatula. That's fine. But real Italians don't use wooden spoons, or don't use plastic spoons. Did we bring it, do you think? When I was in culinary school, I had like a hardcore, old school Italian chef who it was wood utensils or nothing. I mean, like if you use a metal spoon in a pan, forget about it. I whistled once in class. I got kicked out. He said, I don't do a very good Italian accent, but he goes, if you whistle, it tells me you're having too much fun. I'm like, he's right. I mean, in retrospect, you know what I mean? So the onions are in this pan. It's all like medium-high heat. You get the onions pretty well sweated off, pretty well translucent. And then what we're going to do, I'm not super worried about them getting all the way cooked because it's going to take another probably half hour for this to totally be finished. Did I open this? Probably not. I did. Did you guys feel the rice? Did you like it? I just think it feels kind of cool. I don't know. It's different. What was your question? Not this rice, no. It's really starchy. I don't know what that would do. I never have. I think it might cause problems. Arborio rice is like mystical, you know? And it comes in a vacuum pack. What's that? Right. I think it's the high starch content of it that causes such magic. Okay. So the rice is now in there with the onions and the oil. And I'm coating all that rice with the hot oil. I wish I did a better Italian accent. I really do. I don't do very good accents. Will, are you going to take me on a date after this? Right? I'm going to turn it up just a little bit. This guy, I got to put a glove on because, you know, it's good. Sheet pan? Right. Well, you know, this oven isn't working. And I'm just not going to lie to you. The oven's not working. We have pork. It's going to be great. We're just going to have to totally do it a different way. So, I have nowhere to put that pork right now. What's that? Yeah, but you want to know what? This is my magic pan, and it totally blew my... Yeah, right. It blew my whole first thing, too, because I was going to talk about roasted peppercorns. This is really hot right now, too. Even though the oven's not working, even though that oven's not working right now, it's still warm. So I've been roasting peppercorns, and the room was going to smell like peppercorns. Okay. Whatever, right? Where are we going to go? Just right in there? Yep. All right, now we're going to put it right in our magic oven. See? Right like that. Whoa, all right. Yay. It'll be done really quick. Yay. Okay, back to the risotto. So this is probably longer than it probably should have sat. As you're stirring it, it'll almost start to stick. And I like to think in my brain that the risotto's telling you, it's like, I'm thirsty. Give me something right now. I need some kind of liquid. So the first thing on your list, I think, is white wine. So anybody who's opposed to white wine, you don't have to use wine. There's two ways of looking at that. The alcohol is going to get cooked off. There's not going to be any, there won't be any alcohol left. Or you can use something else. Apple juice, you could just go to the stock part of it. That's fine, too. So add your wine. Really to cover the rice. I don't know what it says in there about how much. Again, you guys, write it down. I don't know. You can't always, read the recipe, know what you're getting into, I guess, and then after you get comfortable with it, just gotta go. Basically, risotto is just something you just have to keep feeding liquid to until it's done. You cook it until it gets to an al dente state. Like you might have had risotto before that had almost too much crunch in it. We're gonna wait till this wine reduces, and you did catch me. Way to go. That's 2 strikes. Broken oven. No garlic in the risotto. Wait, yeah, all right, we'll get it. Yeah, the wine in this right now is almost reduced. So we're going to cheat. What's your name, by the way, sir? John? John, we're going to cheat. And we're just totally going to make this work right now. We're going to do it right this very second. The rice has sucked up most of the wine in there right now. So here's the garlic's going to go in. Normally the garlic will go in with the onions. Here we go, right in the middle. I made a little divot in there. So we're going to just cook that garlic out really quick before step 2. Okay, so the garlic now is pretty much cooked out as much as we want it to. You don't want to cook garlic too much; it would get bitter. You never ever want color on garlic. And it's starting to get that. It starts to basically the rice starts to almost stick a little bit on the bottom. It's not like it sticks all at once. It just starts to stick in spots. And what that means is it's time for the stock. Okay, so here we go. Veg stock in. I'm going to add enough veg stock basically to cover the rice again. Ding. And keep on stirring.
So did you heat that? Are you heating the veg stock?
I had it, yes, it's on top of this griddle. It helps to have that stock warm, because then the rice isn't going to, like, you know, if it's cold, then the stock has to come up to temperature. It's going to take a little bit longer. So if you have the ability to have that liquid, and it can be chicken stock or veg stock and lobster stock, it doesn't really matter. It can be any kind of stock you want. And yeah, it helps to have that liquid hot or warm. Bring it up to a boil and like turn it off. That's fine too. Well, so at the very end of this process, we're going to do this about 2 more times. So every single time that you add liquid to it, that rice is going to suck it all up, and it's going to start to get a little more sticky again. It basically tells you when to do it. Traditionally, I think you do it in 3 steps. You add stock like 3 times. You know, you have to kind of like, that's not law. You know, cooking isn't, there's not, you know, there aren't really rules in cooking. There's guidelines. How's that? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. You got to learn a little bit how to like just go with it. So after we do our second set of stock and it's almost ready to go, the shiitakes that I have for this, because it's wild mushrooms. I have like domestic mushrooms, buttons, and portobellos, which I semi-cooked off those 2. The shiitakes I didn't cook at all. I'm not a huge proponent of like always sautéing my mushrooms ahead of time. They have a ton of flavor. Cooking them, they're gonna get cooked in this because it's so hot. You know what I mean? So I'm not a huge fan of like cooking something to death and then adding it into something. It's like it's gonna get there on its own. And the asparagus, I did blanch that. Are you guys familiar with blanching stuff? Can you hear that? In my brain, I was like, I wish everybody could come up and stir it. Just like one time. Tony would kick me out for sure. She's already mad at me.
I'll forgive you if you do a quick blanching review.
I'm going to. And I would have done it here, but like just time, you know. And then it's not that it's a bad thing. Blanching is just like, you use it for things like asparagus or broccoli, or you can even do like Brussels sprouts. A ton of different things. What it basically does is it semi-cooks something and it sets a color into it. Like the asparagus is a brighter green now. If I had just thrown it in there, it would kind of get dingy fast. It's just that we sometimes do it for herbs. We do it for basil when we like make a basil oil because it'll help retain a color, a more bright color. That's generally the whole idea of that. Like restaurants do it a lot of times because when they're serving vegetables fast, they aren't going to take like, you know, raw green beans, throw them in a pot, throw them on a plate because they turn brown, and you know, this way they'll retain their color a little bit longer. This is moving right along. Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. It's not though. I worked briefly for a very large catering company in town that is no longer in existence, and I'm not going to name the name of it, and I don't guess because you don't want to. But they had booked a huge wedding out in like, where's Cave of the Mountains? Is that Blue Mountains? Somewhere out there. So a woman had a bed and breakfast. It was like hundreds of they was no planning. They didn't have any running water. They didn't have anything. Oh, it was a nightmare. We pulled it off, but I mean, it's literally like being in the middle of the country with no amenities whatsoever. Oof, it was a bad news. What's that? No, this is better than that. Way better. Is anybody keeping track of how many times I put stock in that? That's right, you're not supposed to because there's no rules. No, it's not there yet. Okay, what should we do? Time. The next part of the whole thing is going to be arugula salad, which you're probably looking at that recipe going, well, there's not really not much to this. The arugula that we got from Vitruvian Farms. It is so fresh. They picked it on Tuesday. That's when we got it. It's like so fresh, it scares me. You guys like arugula? Is everybody familiar with arugula? You'll never get anything better than you're going to get today. It's like they basically tuck it in at night in a little baby bed with pillow and all that kind of stuff. It's so fresh. So we're not going to dress it or do anything super crazy with it. We're just going to use like really nice olive oil, a really nice fresh lemon juice, salt, pepper, and a little bit of Asiago cheese. That's going to be it. And your minds will be blown. I know your minds will be blown. My mind's already blown. So, you know. Does anybody have any questions while this is going on?
Well, back to the blanket.
John!
I didn't finish the blanket.
I know.
So you just put it in the boiling water and then fish it out right away?
You put it in the boiling water, and what I generally do is 5 minutes seems to be the magic rule for me at least, because I do things like broccoli, things like asparagus. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I do. Basil we do at work, but we only do that for like 30 seconds. So something really gentle you'd only want to do really quick. But like asparagus, 5 minutes. And then you pull it out of the boiling water and you want to get it into some ice water right away. You got to shock it down and cool it. That is a big part of it, John. I do appreciate you actually bringing that up because I did drop the ball on that. Man. I'm going to put more stock in there. It's like begging for it. I'm trying to figure out how we're going to plate this stuff. Like what will make sense. We're just going to go like risotto, pork, salad, you know.
That's fine.
I think this thing's still on. I can't tell. Maybe not.
So can you tell us how you made the vegetable stock?
Yes, absolutely. Doesn't it? Thanks for noticing. Somebody told me once that veg stock was nothing more than brown water. And then ever since that day, who brought up the Moosewood cookbook? That was Micah's mom, right? Yes. Sorry. Really appropriate. Sally. The Moosewood cookbook is, I read, my wife visited that restaurant actually, and she had nothing but great things to say about it. My wife and my daughter are over there hiding, by the way. They're way down low. They probably She visited it. It's in Ithaca, New York. Is that right? Yeah. They do really outstanding stuff with vegetarian stuff. So the crux of a lot of their cooking is veg stock, right? So in one of their cookbooks, they have a really good recipe for veg stock, which was kind of what I was doing with it. We at work, we have the ability to hang on to like all of our onions and all of our celery scraps and carrots, onions, celery, herb stems, everything. You stay away from things like tomatoes. You don't want to use that stuff. You don't want to use cabbage, anything that's super heavy. You don't want to hang on to. Just as much onion, celery, carrot, things like that you can get, herbs. So we have a ton of it, and I just bring it to a boil, and I add some potatoes to it. And potatoes give it some body. Where chicken stock always has a really decent amount of body, veg stock generally is almost brown water if you don't put some love into it. What's going on back there? So I find that adding potatoes to your veg stock will give it some legs. It'll actually give it a lot of, give it some body, like chicken stock has. I gotta taste this risotto real quick. Speaking of taste, has anyone noticed that I haven't added any salt to this yet at all? Because I have. Whew. It's close. It's close. How are we on time? I'm good. Back to that veg stock. Bay leaves, peppercorns. I didn't write down a recipe for veg stock, and I should have. Is there any way I can do that after the fact? Tony, where's Tony? Tony? No, not here. If there's a way that I can put my recipe for veg stock up, I will, somewhere online so you guys can get at it. Because I really do think it's an awesome staple thing to use. It's easy. Put it on the video. Right. Yes, I can do that. The risotto is really close. And I mentioned the fact that I haven't seasoned this at all yet. I don't like to season it in the early parts. I like to season it almost towards the end. So that's what I'm going to do. It's really close. I'd say like 5 more minutes. I'm going to add just a touch more stock. See, I probably already added more stock than is in any of those recipes. You just have to kind of gauge it. When they say al dente, do you all kind of, you know what that means a little bit? Almost a little bite to the middle of it. Too much is not good, right? It should be on the like a little too much side of al dente, if that even makes any sense. Just a tiny bit. I think risotto can be intimidating in that fact that you're nervous that you're going to like overdo it, and if you overdo risotto, it's kind of that's no good either, you know.
You're going to strain all those vegetables out of the stock that you cook, or
Put all that stuff in a stock pot, fill it up with water, bring it to a boil, reduce that boil. I'm going to put this recipe up somewhere, I promise. Bring it to a boil, right? Bring it to a boil. Reduce it, and then let it go about 45 minutes. Veg stock's one of those things, like unlike chicken stock, you don't want it to go for hours and hours and hours. Like chicken stock will benefit from as long as you can almost let it go. Veg stock, not so much. It'll start to get bitter the longer you leave it on. So 45 minutes is really about all you have to do, and then yes, strain it out, chill it down. So close. So close, Will, so close. So close.
celery tops are okay.
Yep. At work, we have the ability to not, we have a ton of ends of like the tops and the bottoms. You can use all of it. It gets a little bitter, but it's not going to cause too much trouble. Just stay away from, like I said, you don't want to use bell peppers, you don't want to use tomatoes, you don't want to use cabbage. Not that any of those things are bad, but they'll override. So then you'll end up with something that tastes weird, and it can be cloudy. Not that it really matters, but generally what those things will do is they'll make your stock taste one way or the other. It'll be like tomato stock, or it'll be cabbage stock, or if you don't mind that, it's okay. We do as much as we can, because at work a lot of our produce is more in the summertime than in the wintertime. Honestly, we try more so with our greens, but so close. It's really close. I don't know what we're going to do. I know what we're going to do. We're going to move into salad. Like, this is going to happen really fast. I'd say, did I say 5 minutes like 5 minutes ago? 5 minutes, I swear, this time.
So how do you manage risotto in your restaurant to keep it, so it isn't all floppy?
Fantastic question. What you would do in a restaurant setting, the best way that I and this will work too with leftovers, is obviously you can put it in the fridge and it gets cold, right? You can use a saute pan at home, and you have to use liquid again to bring it back up to heat. As long as you haven't overcooked it to begin with, it'll be okay. You just have to do almost the same process again. You just put it on the stove top in a saute pan with a little bit of liquid, whether it's chicken stock or water. Water's fine, because you're only going to add a little bit. It's not going to take very long to heat it up. In a restaurant setting, they would do pretty much that. They would probably use stock or what have you. It's easy to bring back to warm temperatures. Holding it's not always the best thing in the world. Now, that having been said, I had to do that for this because remember I was going to make this big giant thing, and this is just all risotto over here. What's up, little fella? It's lots of risotto. Hey, how's the pork loin doing?
Oh.
Super rare still. That's weird. Actually, Rach, we should maybe, I don't know, not yet. Here's what we'll do. Here's what we're going to do. As soon as this is done, which is going to be like 7 o'clock on the head, I'm going to put the rest of the ingredients in there, and you guys are going to be oohed and awed by that. It's going to be amazing. Then Allie's going to start to make the salad. And it's what I said. It's the fresh arugula that came from Vitruvian Farms in McFarland. It's super awesome. Do you want to, should we pass it around?
I think we should.
The whole bowl?
No.
Or what? Just we'll just let you guys smell it because it's super strong and super awesome.
Do you have a paper cup I can borrow?
Do you want to just put it on a plate?
No.
Okay.
If we were doing this at home and didn't want to have to sit in our kitchen where our company's home, could we get it to this point and then add, like, the veggies, finish it up, like, right before we ate it? Or would we have to sit in our kitchen?
You have to sit in your kitchen. With this, you should sit in until it's done, and then turn the heat off. It'll stay warm, not for hours and hours, but I think this is one of those things that you kind of have to baby until it's done. You know what I mean? Like if you went in the other room and oh, it's halftime at the football game, and I don't know. That might be disastrous. I would say yes, you want to baby it for sure, just to be safe. Sorry. It's there. It's there, ladies and gentlemen. It's there. Okay. Do I have any on my face? So now I'm going to season it up with some salt, kosher salt. Oh, hey. Remember that whole thing about the roasted pepper? I should put something up about that online too. All you have to do is take peppercorns, literally, put them on a sheet tray, put them in the 350 oven for like half an hour, 45 minutes. It is mind-blowing. You're like, yeah, whatever. Let me tell you, it is so amazing. Try it. That's what I'm using in this pepper grinder is that. Yep. And they're just like anything. It's just like pepper, but it's been roasted in the oven. And it takes on a totally different taste. Do you guys like pepper? How much? Yeah, so do I. I really like red pepper, cayenne pepper. I'm going to add a little bit to this too. I don't know if is that in the recipe? No? Yes? Yes. Hang on, Will. When you watch this online, wherever it ends up, William, you'll probably be able to watch that process a lot better. I'm going to add just a little bit more stock just because it is sticking just a touch on the bottom. It's probably because I had the heat up too high. So I seasoned it up. Now I'm just going to add these mushrooms. Remember I said these are the button mushrooms and the portobellos that I already sauteed up. Just a little bit. A little bit of butter, a little bit of salt and pepper on those. The shiitakes, I'm just going to add, I just chopped them and added them. That's it. Why is that thing beeping right now? So I'm folding it all in. And then this is the asparagus that I blanched. I mean, it's probably too much, but is there such a thing as too much asparagus? Okay, that's pretty much it. I'm going to taste it, and just make sure that the S&P and whatnot is there. Of course. Just kidding. Traditionally, it's finished with a pretty decadent amount of butter. Does anybody have a problem with that? good because there's a ton of it in there. So, butter, right? Unsalted butter probably would be best just because there's probably a decent amount of salt in it already. And then my assistant, thank you. Parmesan. Is there such a thing as too much of that? Probably, but you know. I'm glad you asked that, Tony. I know, I am glad that you asked that. I'm trying to be funny. It came from Farmer John's Cheese. Dodgeville, I think. Platteville? Spring Green? Spring Green. Farmer John's awesome. We get a delivery from them every week. We use Asiago and Parmesan from them. Smoked Gouda, which goes in the grits for the weekend. And we also use it, their provolone. All right, guys, that's risotto. So that wasn't super hard, you know. I mean, it's a little touchy, and you have to pay attention to it, but the end result is really, really good. You can do anything with risotto as it is. You can add a ton of different things to it. I've roasted butternut squash, pureed it with a little bit of chicken stock, added that to it, and have it be like a butternut, you know, roasted butternut squash risotto. One year for Valentine's Day, I did a roasted beet risotto, so it turned out to be kind of a pink color. There's a story behind that, but we're not going to get into that whole thing, right? My wife doesn't want me to tell that story, but anyway. I mean, but there's 100 things you can do with it. You know, really in the summertime when things start to come into season, there's no end to what you can add to it. You know, basil, anything. Just use your imagination. It's such a decadent, awesome thing. We're done.